me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Our efforts are generally focused on parks, recreation, libraries, arts, and culture. That makes me feel so good because parks and recreation are such an integral part of any system, and understanding how that works and making sure that that's part of the future planning efforts for the municipality is one of the best things that you could possibly do, having to go after the parks and recreation piece of it. So this particular community, in my estimation, are getting it right.
Welcome back to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, live from the 2025 NRPA Conference in Orlando, Florida. We sit down with Lisa Paradis, a lifelong leader in parks and recreation who's helping communities nationwide level up their planning and operations through her work at BerryDunn. From her early days at the YMCA to leading departments in Massachusetts, and now guiding agencies through master plans, feasibility studies, and strategic transformations, Lisa shares how planning and authentic leadership can turn checking the box into building a thriving, forward-thinking community. We'll explore what makes a great client partnership, why master plans should never sit on a shelf, and how parks and recreation remain the heartbeat of every city. Stay tuned. This conversation is packed with insights that remind us all why Parks and Rec isn't extra, it's essential. This is the Daily Parks and Rec Show, powered by DPRS Media Co. and Campuses Thriving. Let's dive in.
Okay. All right, we're live again. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I have a special guest, Lisa Paradis, and she formerly worked in Parks and Rec for quite a long time. So maybe you can tell us about your journey coming into Parks and Rec as a professional, and then how you kind of made the leap over to the vendor side.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Yes, well, I'll start at the more than beginning, which was being a swim kid at the YMCA when I was really little. We were a YMCA family, so we grew up with what we considered to be the only option for recreation, and that was what we did as a family. And then as I grew older and kept, and my brothers and I come from a long line of sport family, and my brothers and I were all college athletes, and we kept kind of working our way through that system. It came to the point of choosing careers, and this is what I fell into. And I say fell into it because I think I'm like a lot of recreation, former recreation or parks and recreation kids. We come back to what we truly are passionate about and the things that we love. To make our lives feel like we're feeding our souls all the time, and also, making a living out of something that we're so passionate about. So I then got a couple of degrees and started after a stint in the private sector. I then started kind of in a temporary role, I thought, as a park and recreation director in Massachusetts in a really small town. And then I segued over to a couple of different places and landed my last 10 years in the public sector in Brookline, Mass, which is part of Boston, geographically part of Boston, but its own entity. Spent 10 and a half years there. And then I, as they say, went over to the dark side. And I say jokingly because it's really a wonderful light side of consulting. And I joined my good friend and colleague, Jamie Sabak, with 110%. For about 15 months, and then I was intrigued with broadening my reach within the consulting world, and helped Barbara Heller to start the practice at BerryDunn. So we started with just the two of us, and probably a couple of projects, and here we are 6 years later, almost exactly 6 years later, with 30 people on our team.
Wow.
And over 100 projects that we tackle at any given time.
Fantastic.
So,
and what do you attribute to that growth, going from 2 people to 30 people in only 5 or 6 years?
Well, we did acquire our largest competitor back in 2022, which was Greenplay. So we were able to sort of do some rock skipping, as it were, over the brand name recognition. That is often a stumbling block in scaling a business like that. But so that actually worked out quite well, and we acquired and we've grown with our seasoned professionals, I would say, who are all people from the public sector, people who have been in positions of leadership and who have names for themselves and networks for themselves all over the country. So we've grown through both acquisition and organically, actually. So, and I would say the sustained growth of what we're doing right now is because of mostly because we're so passionate about what we do, and we are really able to produce a quality, innovative product that I think is not cookie cutter. It's not the same product for every one of our municipalities that we work with. And we take a lot of pride in that. We take a lot of pride in the relationship that we have with our customers and our clients, and that's what's most important to us. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but we're really, really, really a people-driven organization in BerryDunn and outside.
So for those not familiar with what BerryDunn does for the Parks and Rec community, can you kind of describe a little bit about the value y'all provide and services y'all provide?
Yeah, sure. So we are, I would like to say, a full-service consulting firm. We're a national consulting firm, and we work all over the country. Most of our projects have, they're large systems projects. So I would say master plans, comprehensive master plans, strategic plans, feasibility studies. We get into elements of those things like organizational or operational assessments, a lot of economic impact, pro forma work. We're also in the libraries world, not just parks and recreation, but libraries as well. And there is some dovetailing of those services, of course. And then we're also in the arts and culture world as well. So we are the people who don't just drop from the sky as these generic management consultants. This is the world that we live in, the world that we grew up in, and we are now helping organizations to really level up in their service delivery.
And so what makes a good client for y'all, and maybe even describe what kind of circumstances do you find them in, and what do you try to kind of help them get into a better position?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. To say that we love all of our clients is very true. But I would say I think the clients that we love are the ones that aren't checking a box, not for either a grant, to be able to qualify for grants, or to be able to qualify for CAPRA or something like that. We really love a client that is doing the work of planning to plan, to truly understand what their wants and needs of their community are, and to create a strategic intent to level up their community. And what I would say, I mean, we have a couple of really fantastic examples of that, but they're the communities that aren't necessarily, as I guess maybe I alluded to before, but that aren't pushing themselves into it, but that are walking into it intentionally because they really want to implement and operationalize a planning effort.
And so a master plan is something that y'all help a city do if they come to, let's say they've never had a master plan before. This is one of the things that y'all offer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have different practices that work directly with cities and other municipalities in comprehensive and strategic or master planning efforts for the entirety of that municipality. Our efforts are generally focused on parks, recreation, libraries, arts, and culture. Oftentimes, there's one project that we're going to be just kicking off in a couple of weeks outside of Columbus that actually, which was such music to my ears. It was actually their parks and recreation master plan that was actually part of their comprehensive master plan for their city as well. And that makes me feel so good because parks and recreation are such an integral part of any system. and understanding how that works and making sure that that's part of the future planning efforts for the municipality is one of the best things that you could possibly do. And you're not sort of, I guess, chasing your tail after you're doing that master
Right.
plan for a city or for a municipality, and then having to go after the parks and recreation piece of it. So this particular community, in my estimation, are getting it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, more often than not, and it's kind of sad that they'll go through all this effort to create a great master plan, and then it kind of sits on the shelf.
Yep.
Is there any kind of advice you can give to Parks and Rec departments to make sure that this stays a living, breathing document that they're kind of maintaining
Yeah.
for the years that it's in use?
Yeah, I do. And you probably are going to think that you probably didn't want to ask me that question because I could go on forever. As a matter of fact, I was just part
Please
of
do.
I was just part of a panel that offered a pre-conference workshop yesterday from 8 to 11. And that was my piece of things, was sort of preparing for writing the RFP, how you prepare going into it, understanding your wants and needs. And, I think it is a little bit off the radar that organizations don't realize how much that is that they're going to need to ask themselves as an organization before starting any planning efforts. One of the things but one of the things that I think is really important that an organization needs to have is the scaffolding or the foundation for actually implementing that plan. So that was a fantastic question. And what I mean by that is culture, the ability to actually not just, put your hand up and say you want change, but put your hand up and say, we want to change. And not just to change for change's sake, but to change, and I'll continue to use this term, to level up, to make sure you either sustain the greatness that you've already created or to go from a middle of the line agency that is just meeting the needs of their community to an agency that really is forward thinking and understands the future needs of their community and is able to deliver those kinds of services.
Yeah. And so help me understand as far as creating a master plan. I know there's three big questions that come to mind, but maybe you can help fill in the gaps. The three that I think are: who are you, where are you, and where do you want to go?
Yeah.
What are the other gaps that I'm missing? I know that's very 10,000 feet up, but
no, but I mean, I think that, Craig, you've hit it on the nail on the head, because I think that those are actually the questions that not many or some agencies don't truly sit down and ask themselves in preparation for undertaking a planning effort, because oftentimes there's a rush to get something out before a budget deadline, or there's money in this fiscal year and it needs to be spent, and that's all well and good, but it does take some work, some background work to understand and bring the people in your organization into the conversation. Maybe it's not just the organization itself, but the stakeholders, your group of users, and those representatives of those user groups who can help define, those three questions that you just outlined: who you are as an organization, and then I'll skip right to the end, where you want to be when you when you grow up.
Right.
And in my world, those are two of the most important things that you can ask, because the first is, what are we today? The second is, what do we want to be tomorrow? But it also is outcomes driven.
Right.
And when people, leadership and organizations are looking toward this kind of effort, one of the first things you really have to understand and define for yourself is what outcomes you want out of that. And a lot of times we find that people might, and this is such a network and relationship driven profession, which makes it, this is why I've thrived so much in this profession over the last, 35 years, because it is so relationship driven.
Right.
And it's like one big huge family. I know that sounds really silly to say, but it truly is. It feels like that, especially when you're at a conference like this. But a lot of times I think so let me just say, understanding what other people have gone through and understanding some of the definitions that they've put in place for their community, I think is a really good starting place, but it's not the ending place for
Right.
your community in creating what you want out of your master plan or any planning effort. It's truly only a start. And it's really just a catalyst for you to then dive deep in your own, asking those same questions to yourself to define,
Yeah.
what you really want out of your planning effort.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, I'd like to get your feedback on a little promo that we made for the industry about why Parks and Rec is an essential service and should never be on the chopping block, because they are certainly essential. But we'll play this and we'll come right back and finish up with Lisa.
When we talk about essential services, what comes to mind? Police, firefighters, healthcare. But there's another essential service, often overlooked, yet always present. Parks and recreation. Parks and Rec is health. It's the walking trail that lowers blood pressure, the recreation center where seniors fight isolation, the swim lessons that prevent tragedy before it happens. This isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. Parks and Rec is safety, a playground instead of a street corner, a basketball court instead of trouble, a summer camp where every child belongs. It's not just about activity, it's about protection, prevention, and possibility. Parks and Rec is community, the festival that brings neighbors together, the cultural event that teaches respect and diversity, the open space where a city breathes. It builds bridges where division once stood. It gives people a reason to gather, to connect, to care. And Parks and Rec is economics. It strengthens property values. It drives tourism through events and trails. It saves on healthcare costs. Every dollar invested multiplies, feeding back into schools, into safety, into growth. Essential service is not just about survival, it's about thriving. And Parks and Recreation is where thriving begins. In wellness, in equity, in culture, and in joy. Parks and Rec isn't extra, it's essential. For our health, for our safety, for our communities, for our future. A message from the Parks and Recreation community.
So how we do?
Oh my gosh, that was the second time I've seen it, and it just gets me all, emotional about about how you all have presented that, because I just think that is so true. And I think as a profession, we have just such a hard time relaying that information, because we're oftentimes the lowest hanging fruit on the budget vine. Yeah. And I think it's oftentimes because it's a taken for granted social service. And I will say social service because that is who we are.
Right.
And that is what we do. And having been in a municipal form of government for a long time, it is really challenging to go up against very data-driven other departments when you're fighting for a piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. And there are things like, streets that need to be paved, and obviously police and fire and schools that are up against you. But I think you've done this really well, and it just feeds into the understanding that we are the basis for all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. That Parks and Recreation is really what makes community thrive. And I'll say just one last thing. I think when you look on any website for a municipality, you do not necessarily see, even though they're essential services as well, mm-hmm. you do not see a backhoe or a police cruiser or a fire truck or an accountant's computer. You see, I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, you are going to see a public park with families and people utilizing that open space, mm-hmm. or that aquatic center or that recreation center, because it is the thing that we all love to take accountability and responsibility for, but it is also the thing that we take for granted the most in our communities.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with that,
Yeah.
Lisa. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today and giving us your time. And I really hope you have a really good rest of your convention. Anything to say, any last words to say about the convention and coming to NRPA?
Oh, this is always such a reset button for me. So thank you for having me on your show. And I appreciate you and what you do for the industry and for our profession. I'm looking forward to the next couple of days. I'm actually offering another session tomorrow. Not that it matters to, but anyone who wants to come, it's at 9 a.m. And I think it'll be a nice one for individuals who are considering their options in their careers. It's called Should I Stay or Should I Go?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And, if anyone is still looking toward the exhibit booth in the last hour or so, we're at BerryDunn is at booth 932. Love to see you there. And I just really appreciate everybody. And hopefully you're having a great convention as well.
Yeah. Well, thank your company for supporting the
Thank
industry.
you.
And thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your convention. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
At DPRS Media Co., we believe Parks and Recreation isn't just a service, it's the heartbeat of our communities. We exist to honor the people, the vendors, and the leaders shaping the future of Parks and Rec. Our mission is simple: to tell their stories, highlight their careers, and celebrate their essential work. Our vision is bold: to be the trusted hub where leaders, vendors, and communities unite, inspiring innovation, sharing wisdom, and building a stronger, healthier nation. Through over 220 live shows and 6 weekly series, the Leadership Series, Facility Maintenance, Young Professionals Network, Youth Sports Mastery, The Rec Room, and Growing Leaders, plus our industry-leading newsletter, the weekly Parks and Rec Post, we're building a media platform made for the Parks and Rec community. And now, we're inviting strategic partners to co-create this story with us. As a partner, you'll gain 12 hours of annual live exposure with custom shows highlighting your expertise, polished 60-second promos refined for maximum impact, year-round visibility with dozens of replays across our media network, premium features in our newsletter, and amplified social media reach across LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. This is your chance to educate, inspire, and lead while connecting directly with the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. This is DPRS Media Co. Let's build the future of Parks and Rec together.